You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer and thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom. And joining us for today's Top 4 at 4 is Fox 35 news anchor John Brown. And John, we appreciate you joining us.
Yep, Top 4 at 4, it's all one story.
It is all one story.
Multiple angles right now because this story is getting headlines. Somewhat nationally, but definitely in every corner of Florida here. So we start with the big news today. Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez has been arrested on charges of racketeering and conspiracy to commit racketeering. This is over his alleged involvement in a major, years-long illegal gambling operation in a couple of counties that they know of. He was arrested today earlier in his uniform. The video of his arrest was released by Homeland Security agents in the Tampa area. And as you can see, that's him being arrested there. He appears to mouth the words, "What's this about?" Now, we're just debating why he was there. They must have called him in and then sprung that on him. So he was arrested Thursday morning and booked into jail. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis immediately suspended him as the sheriff. Now, again, this story making news all across the country because, well, it's shocking that an elected official accused of such serious charges, and one of our law enforcement experts, Jamie Copenhaver, he sounded off about this today. He was shocked too.
Those are some shocking revolutions. I mean, anytime you're dealing with a racketeering charge, I mean, that carries a serious prison sentence, Garrett. I think there's still a minimum mandatory on a racketeering charge if convicted. So, the sheriff's going to have a lot of hurdles to jump over to build a defense on this case. But, the gambling aspect of that's shocking. And then campaign finance.
And it has been interesting to see some of those details of what they are accusing him of.
Yeah, let's talk about that right now because actually when you hear the number, everybody's kind of like, dang, this is a big deal. Okay, so here's what they've uncovered in their investigation, they say. According to the criminal complaint, Lopez was connected to, aware of, or part of an illegal gambling operation that ran lotteries and slot machines. Officials say the organization generated more than $21 million in illegal proceeds over the past few years. So the sheriff now facing these charges, racketeering, conspiracy to commit racketeering, and they said multiple others maybe also are going to be arrested in the days to come. Now, following his election as the sheriff back in November of 2020, so he's been in office 5 years, investigators say he continued to advance the interests of that criminal organization and even collected a portion of the gambling proceeds for his involvement.
Yeah, very serious allegations. You mentioned the dollar amount. It's just kind of blows your mind to hear that.
I mean, what's also interesting is we do these stories often about these, slot machines in the back of a bar and different stories like that. But then when you have the sheriff allegedly as a part of this, and we're going to get into this in a second, but I mean, I already started looking back to the arrest previously. How many people has he busted for this? Well, that puts many of those cases in jeopardy. Again, we'll get to that in just a second. But again, I mean, this is the crime right next door. You hear, oh, there's a bar next door. They're doing some gambling in there. And then the accusation is not only was he behind it, he was profiting from it. Now, to what extent? I'm also curious to see if he was the front for law enforcement in this case, where they, and we're going through some scenarios here that I talked to some officers about where, he permits it to happen because he's taking a cut. And he said that's a likely scenario here. They doubt that he would come up with a criminal enterprise like this to be brought into it on the flip side. And this could have gone back a long time. Once we get the full details of how long it's been going on, then we'll have a better idea. But one of the guys I talked to today also said, if this has been going on prior to him being in office, then one thing that law enforcement is going to look into is who donated to him to run for sheriff in the first place. That could be very interesting. If they find out that some of these other guys are associated here, they go back and see who helped fund the money for that first election and the second election too. Wow, this is going to there's a lot of tentacles going out on this one. It could go a long, long ways.
Yeah, and this is really just the first, to mix metaphors here, this is just the first thread that's kind of being pulled as we are learning of it.
And what they normally say is the biggest one doesn't go down first. A lot of times the big one goes in anticipation of getting the bigger one, right? That's your pin right there. Yep. You get this guy say, okay, well, we could go easier on you. Again, we're playing out the scenario here. We go easy on you. You have to go here. And I mean, wow, this investigation has to be so intricate. And I'm fascinated by investigations like this when you start putting the pieces together. So we'll see. And again, innocent until proven guilty, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah, and the Attorney General's office saying today that he initially engaged the operation for campaign contributions and personal payments, but then played a multifaceted role in expanding and protecting this illegal enterprise, using his office to shield the enterprise from law enforcement.
If you're going, I mean, this is, we all know the stories about Chicago crime, right? When Chicago crime happened, the only way they were able to actually expand the crime operations, and it happens in other cities, but Chicago is one that I'm intricately aware of. The only way you can expand these operations and keep them growing is if you have police on your side, or judges, or investigators, because somebody's got to squash the investigations, and that's what happened in Chicago. So you see a story playing out like this, and it's like, wow, that's why it's such big news. There's so many facets to the story today.
It's fascinating, and we've gotten some reaction from state leaders. This statement from Attorney General James Othmeyer coming in earlier today.
Yeah, basically solemn day in Florida for our law enforcement community. Put this one here. We put great trust in our constitutional officers, especially those who are our community's first line of defense. And he goes on to say about how it's going to be proceeded here. But again, it's not just law enforcement. I mean, this is one of those stories where even my wife, jumping on a plane, said, I just saw the headline that you guys pushed out. So, you know, sheriffs are a powerful position here in Florida. And if you're new to this area, it's not like most states. Like in Missouri, we didn't even know who a sheriff was. It was just a minor position. Here, some of these guys have that strong sheriff model where they think they're more powerful than the governor. So that culture goes back a long time into the 1800s here in Florida. So these are powerful individuals, and they have a lot at their disposal. That's why I think this is getting so much attention here.
And this statement from Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, who strong words as you would expect from
these
him.
guys all know each other too. So these guys have to release statements on somebody or people they know intricately. He says, I'm extremely disappointed and shocked by Sheriff Lopez's criminal conduct. He has embarrassed himself, his family, and the great men and women who work at the Osceola County Sheriff's Office. His conduct is outrageous, unprofessional, and obviously corrupt. He forgot the first rule in public service: no one is above the law. So, I mean, again, he didn't hold back. I mean, some of the others have been a little less, but you'll never get Grady Judd to hold back a little bit. But even like Mark Nejame. Mark Nejame has been really outspoken in some of these cases that we've covered here on Fox 35. And he's been outspoken against the sheriff, the way he handled the recent investigations. And so attorneys here have also had issues with him, and I think this is their chance now to pile on. You're going to see a lot of that today.
The governor has suspended Sheriff Lopez from office, and a replacement has been named. And we want to go now to Fox 35's Stephanie Buffamonte, who joins us live outside the Osceola County Sheriff's Office to tell us more about who this is stepping in to this role, to take over this role of Osceola County Sheriffs. Good afternoon, Stephanie.
Good afternoon, Garrett. So that is going to be Christopher Blackman. He is the interim sheriff here. So a lot happening inside the sheriff's office behind me here today in terms of leadership. Now, a little bit about him. He's with Florida Highway Patrol. He leads actually 850 sworn troopers and is the statewide immigration commander for all 67 Florida counties. So he already has this big leadership role in Florida, and specifically in Central Florida, an FHP, overseeing so many troopers there. We know that he has volunteered for Make-A-Wish and the Special Olympics, and that he just has a long background in law enforcement.
And Stephanie, what happens with this position now? How long will he be kind of filling this out? We know things are a little bit different because Lopez has just been suspended, not necessarily removed from office, but where do things stand and kind of what's next?
So that's what's kind of up in the air right now because of that point that you just made. Marcos Lopez, was suspended by the governor, but he has not been removed. If he is removed, that's when things will start going. So if he's removed, that will prompt a special election. That would fall in tandem with fall elections in August and November of 2026. So we're talking a little while here that the interim sheriff would be in place until that moment. If elected, whoever is elected in the special election, if that does happen, they would serve the remainder of the term, but then there would be another election for 2028. So a lot of moving parts here right now. We're just going to have to take them as they come.
Yeah, still a lot to see. Fox 35 says, Stephanie Buffamonte, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon here on Fox 35 News Plus.
Thank you.
So that is certainly an interesting kind of wrinkle in all of this.
Now let's go back to this final one here, because this is the one that I think is going to have some resounding or effects down the road here. Big question, what happens to the cases that he's currently working? And that's why I was trying to look back and see if he had addressed any racketeering cases. If he had looked into, well, any criminal enterprise stories like this. Homeland Security's involved here. So the stories that the crimes that he is investigating, that he's been involved with, even ones that have already gone to trial and people may be in jail, all the attorneys who have handled those cases are now wondering what happens next. And we talked to Belvin Perry today, and he kind of lays it out what could happen here. Yeah,
because he said, really, this hurts the credibility of the entire office, not just the sheriff himself.
Yeah, and you're talking about one of the fastest, if not the fastest growing county in the fastest growing state in the country. There's a lot of cases at risk here.
Not only will they push and lean into it, you will see during the voir dire jury selection process, they will ask numerous questions about the believability and credibility of law enforcement officers, that they're just like anyone else. They will also ask, have you heard about the sheriff in Osceola County being arrested? And try to determine what effect, if any. And the problem is it stains the credibility of the fine men and women who wear the uniform. People now are going to look at them a little differently.
So he said, even when you're talking about jury selection, a lot of times they do ask about how do you feel about the testimony of law enforcement, and he said expect it to come up from defense attorneys bringing it up, calling into question and credibility. So a lot of impacts on cases that are still pending.
Yeah, just wait for the appeals at this point and see who decides to try and test these waters. And that's why I think they brought in a guy who's well respected by so many people. So maybe that'll calm it down for just a little bit, get the footing again in Osceola County so they can move forward. But get through this and then see where they go.
And I also asked Judge Perry specifically about the Maddie Soto case.
That's what everybody's thinking about right there.
Of course. And, especially because this is not the first time that there has been issues with this sheriff's office, specifically about that case. And what Judge Perry said was he thinks the evidence in that case is enough to speak for itself, that it probably will not have a large impact. Right. But, you never know.
Any other case that's questionable. Now, in this case, though, if you remember, the reason why we covered him so much was because he had released that picture that wasn't supposed to be out there. And we asked him about that. We had the debate here for Osceola County Sheriff in our studios. And we asked him about that. But it also makes me think back about if they've been watching him for this long, they were watching our debate very closely as well. So now I want to go back and watch the debate and see what topics we brought up to see what was discussed there, because there could have been some topics that may tie into this. So we're going to have to go look at that again.
This is just, like you said, just the tip of the iceberg. Still going to be many more details to come out of this. But that is our top 4 at 4. Today's big story, the arrest of Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. John Brown, we appreciate you joining us.